And another video from Dave.
What's up, YouTube? This is Dave's Head Enough 7. This is another video to do with Outcast Season 1, Episode 9, Close to Home review. And another video from Dave. And yeah, pretty much it's my weekly review for Outcast. I'm actually a little early on this one. Usually I don't get it out till later on. So this is probably the earliest I've had a review for Outcast other than the first episode, which was on PlayStation 2 weeks prior before they pretty much launched the show on Cinemax. You know, they had the pilot episode on PlayStation for free like a week or two prior before it came out on Cinemax. But yeah, before I get in the whole Outcast review, I want to say I am going to be doing a podcast on Suicide Squad, most likely Sunday night or Monday night. I'm going to be seeing the movie Sunday, and then I'm going to be doing a podcast that night if I'm home and I don't decide to do something that night, like, you know, stay over my brother's after the movie or whatever, or Monday night. So we'll see what goes on then. But I will be doing a Suicide Squad podcast for sure. And I want to do sometime this week, I want to do a podcast based on like all the trailers that have came out in Comic-Con and that just has been released, you know, lately. There's been a lot of trailers for different TV shows, movies. There's a lot of shit to talk about. You know, and stuff to do with like, you know, comic book stuff like the Flash show, Arrow's new trailer. Which other ones did they show? They showed a Luke Cage trailer. It looked really cool. Really excited for that show. They showed the Exorcist trailer for the miniseries on TV. Just a bunch of different trailers I want to talk about. So if you want to be a part of either one of them podcasts or both of them podcasts, hit me up in the comment section and I'll try to get you in there. Alright, Outcast Season 1, Episode 9, Close to Home. This was it was a decent episode. The ending is what was really good. If it wasn't for the ending being so good, it would just be a really slow episode. The whole show's slow. That's the only drawback with this show. It's real, but it keeps you interested. That's what it does good. Because if it didn't keep you interested, it would just be a very slow show. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. It's a slow moving show. That's the only drawback. I hope next season they can somehow get it going where it's not so slow. But last week's episode made up for a lot of the show being, you know, moving as slow as it is. It's just they drop you bombs here and there, but it's really slow. But this episode basically was about, you know, Kyle basically trying to figure out where Allison went, you know, what he's going to do with Amber, you know, like what's, you know, because Amber's going through things basically because her mother and father are all screwed up. So basically he has Amber now and he's trying to get his family back together, you know. And he ends up going with Mark Halter, Megan's husband, and breaking into his old home, hoping that, you know, she's there. And what was weird about that part in the episode, when he was in there with Mark Halter, uh, he hears something upstairs when he's starting to go up the stairs, or he's already upstairs. He hears something in the room. When he opens the door, well, actually breaks it down. Uh, he sees that the window's open. So there was somebody in there, but you don't find out who was in there. You know, and then Mark comes upstairs and says, what's going on? And he says, oh, nothing, something along the lines of that. And basically, he ends up just getting stuff, you know, for Amber to stay at his house. So when he's leaving, he actually runs into Allison's mother, and she ends up telling him, you know, she ends up telling him, you know, they get into some kind of like, you know, she's gonna call the cops on him because Allison's got a restraining order on him, and he's like, let me explain, and then he basically talks to her, and he asks her, he's like, where's Allison? You know where Allison is? And then he ends up finding out where she is through her, that she's in the psychiatric home. And he ends up going there and basically actually gets in because they tell him at first, you know, nobody, you know, that's our rule. Nobody can talk to the patient, blah, blah, blah. basically tells the lady, everything that's going on, and if this is the time, this would be the time to bend the rules. So he ends up getting to talk to Allison, and Allison, he actually tells her, what's going on to a degree. There's nothing wrong with you. Basically tells her, there's things going in people, and it's basically revolving around him. And that's because she's staring at the window, and then she starts looking towards him. But you could tell she's so fucked up from what happened and what she's remembering of what she did to her daughter. It's not processing. And she basically, kisses him and tells him to take care of, Amber, and, leave her, alone, basically, along those lines. So what I thought was weird when he talked to Megan on the phone after that scene, she asked him, "Did you find Allison?" And he says, "No." So I don't know what was all why he didn't tell her that he actually seen her or whatever, but she could tell there was something wrong. So that was basically that. You have Reverend Anderson too, going crazy in the episode. Basically, well, he's not. He's pretty much losing everything. And I think that's Sydney's plan to get him out of the picture. He ends up going to the church and finding out that, they're looking to get a new reverend, and I believe a new reverend. And then you see Sydney donated to the church. He comes out, walking out, and then him and Reverend Anderson get an altercation. Reverend Anderson ends up punching him, and Chief Giles gets there, and he wasn't going to lock him up. And then Sydney says he wanted to, basically have him arrested, press charges. And then Reverend Anderson says, "No, just take me away." And then when they get to the police station, he lets them go. And believe it or not, I think that would go on. Most places, shit like that wouldn't go on. If somebody got an altercation, they're taking somebody's ass to jail. Because I know in Florida, when you get an altercation with somebody, if the police are called, somebody has to go to jail. Unless you get a really cool cop. But in backwoods towns, like a place like I assume Rome, West Virginia, shit like that may go on. So he ends up letting him go in front of the station because Reverend Anderson thought he was going to take him in, and he's like, Are you sure this is what you want to do, Chief Giles?" And Chief Giles said, basically tells him, "I got your back. You need me, I'm there." Because Chief Giles knows there's something bad going on in the town. And, basically Reverend Anderson and Kyle's all, he's really got. So basically that goes on, and then Reverend Anderson learns that chick that he's messing with, that her red-haired son, basically is working with Sydney. So then because he's actually goes like to Sydney's place, and he's like hiding behind the trailer, and he sees the red-haired kid basically pull up on his scooter, learns that he's working with Sydney, goes back to his girlfriend's house, and then the kid shows up over there and basically gets Reverend Anderson to basically attack him because he wanted him to do that to get him out of the picture, because when she kicks him out of the house for grabbing her son, the red-haired kid, I forgot his name, he comes out to the driveway and tells Reverend Anderson, he says, "Oh, my mom, basically had a boyfriend that used to beat, him up and her up, I believe, and she ain't gonna stand for that." So he got him out of the picture. He told him, "I'll be seeing you around," or something like that. So he basically ends up, and through the episode you see Reverend Anderson going up to like people that would come to his church, the few people that still believe in him, asking them for help, trying to get, you know, any type of help he can get, because basically the whole town's turning on him. So at the end of the episode, he basically goes back to Kyle, tells Kyle, "Hey, I'm jealous of you. You got, a gift." And then Kyle tells him, he's like, "This isn't a gift. This is ruining my life. Everybody around me, it's screwing up. My family, everybody." He's like, "It's not a gift." So then with Megan Halter, you have her this episode basically all screwed up from what's happening with, Mark losing his job, and then he's going to be a security guard, and then she actually finds out she's pregnant again. So she's all screwed up from that. And then the worst part of the whole thing, the big twist at the end of the show, they show this scene, she's in the shower, and then something goes on in the shower, like something's coming into her body. I thought it was a dream. And then she gets out of the shower and she's looking at the mirror all crazy, like it's kind of like, I'm wanting to say it's like something's like moving, like her image a little bit, and she's like looking at it all crazy, and I'm like, oh, she's possessed. And then Mark Halter, he runs into the bathroom and he's wanting to know what the fuck's going on because he heard this commotion. And basically, she grabs his head and just smashes it into the fucking window. And then he's in the mirror. He's on the ground with fucking glass stuck in his neck. And then she turns around and he's basically asking her to help him after she smashed his head in the window. And she ends up like smearing her hand in his blood, and then takes the glass out of his neck. So she's possessed, and we learned that from when, Kyle was talking to Reverend Anderson, going back to that part again, because I kind of skipped there just to tell you what was going on with Reverend Anderson. Basically, he gets a phone call from Amber, and Amber tells him, hey, Daddy, Megan's turned into basically mommy. What happened to her mother. And then that's how they end the episode, which I think this episode was a little shorter than normal. I think it was like 40 something minutes. It wasn't like a full episode. That's what sucked. And I could be wrong because I DVR'd it and I've been having issues with my DVR where the sound cuts out, so I had to watch it on. Luckily, they were replaying it at 2 in the morning. I actually got to see it, so I caught it from a spot where I was. So I could be wrong with the time, but I think it was a shorter episode. But that's basically what went on. Then you had one more thing. You had Kate or Ogun, or whatever his name is, Chief Giles' friend. He's leaving town in the beginning of the episode, and he's leaving with Kate. That's basically a demon. And then Chief Giles shows up, basically telling him, he wants to say his goodbyes or whatever. And he tells Chief Giles, he's like, I don't know why you're getting me out of this town. He's like, I was the only person that can help you for what's coming. And he asks him, he's like, what's coming? And he don't say. And then they end up leaving, and then they end up at a restroom or gas station, and she's in there going to the bathroom, and Sydney comes in on her in the bathroom, and when she's running out, she thought maybe like the demon's scared of somebody in the bathroom. She ends up running out the door, and Sydney's like, aren't you gonna wash your hands? And he basically tells her, that he has another thing for her to do, and they end up going to this like she ends up going with Ogun to this warehouse type, building or something where there's like mannequins around, and there's something gonna go on there. I'm assuming for the series finale, which is next week. And she tells, and Ogun says to her, he says, "We can leave, we can go anywhere." He's like, "We don't have to." He says the whole trailer thing with basically helping people turn into demons or change over, or whatever. He said that was fine. Not in his words, but that's basically what he's doing. He says, but this, I don't know. And she tells him pretty much like an ultimatum. She says, you can help me here, or you can go do you, pretty much. And then she ends up convincing him and sticking her hands down his pants because he likes that she basically is like new. I guess he was getting tired of his old lady, and this new her, which is a demon that's in her, which we don't fully know what these things are. I've never read the comics. I'm assuming they're demons. This show, one thing it gives me a whole feel of is like Constantine, how he would go around and get demons, but Kyle's a lot different from Constantine. Maybe he turns into like something like him as the show progresses, or like in the comic book, that's maybe what happens. But right now, he still don't really know much about what this is. Very little, what's going on. He knows enough, but he don't truly know why everything's going on. He got some answers last week from Sydney, but there's a lot more answers to be answered. But yeah, that's basically the episode. I didn't expect that to happen at the end. It threw me off, Uh, for the most part, it was a good episode, but without that ending, with what went on, and I didn't expect them to kill Mark off because there really isn't like a really big cast. So I was like, wow, they're killing that guy off already. But it is what it is. I could take him or leave him. He's all right. I hope they don't kill off Megan. I like Megan, but Mark, I could take them or leave them. But yeah, this episode, if I had to give it a score, I'd give it a. I mean, to be fair, I think like a 7.5. It wasn't like a bad episode or anything. It just wasn't my, last week's episode was so good. Then you go to this episode, which I'm assuming the season finale is going to be great, But this episode, the only problem with this episode and a lot of the show, it's slow. It is a slow moving show, but it keeps you interested because you're wanting to find out what is this, what's going on here, why is this person doing this? It's that's what keeps you interested. It's a good story, but very slow. But that's my review, guys. Tell me what you think about Outcast Season 1, Episode 9, Close to Home. I'm assuming they named it Close to Home because basically one of the possessions actually happened again to somebody really close to him. Tell me what you think in the comment section. And like I said, I'm doing those 2 podcasts. If you want to join the Suicide Squad podcast, hit me up in the comment section. Or the movie trailer podcast, hit me up in the comment section. Or both. That's my video, guys. Later, YouTube.